Hey folks, next up on Dennis Miller Plus One, Strokes lead guitarist Albert Hammond Jr. Now Albert's moved over into the spirits business. I notice a lot of people are branding their own line of spirits, and he's got a wine that he's dealing with, but it sounds like he's much more hands-on than some of these cats, so you get the feeling just sign their signature over for the bottle and move on. Plus we can talk Strokes, we can talk solo albums. He just said a kid, he's 10 years sober, life is good. Albert Hammond Jr. right after this on Dennis Miller Plus One. Welcome to Dennis Miller Plus One. Today, our Plus One is musician, guitarist, and it sounds like he's into the spirits now, and I don't mean poltergeist. Albert Hammond Jr. to the show. AH is the most widely known. Of course, I saw these cats maybe around a decade ago at South by Southwest, the Strokes, and they tore it up. They recently won Best Rock Album at the 63rd Grammy Awards for their 2020 release, The New Abnormal. He also released 3 successful solo albums. When not touring and making music, he's become an entrepreneur. Ever since George and Randy closed $4.4 billion for the vodka, or the Casamigos, everybody's jumping into the spirits, and he has a wine seltzer line called Jetway, which is available now. And we had some time to, believe it or not, folks, a window blew out in the studio. So Al and I have been sitting out in the green room talking a little, and he's a good guy. And this is Albert Hammond Jr. Hey, H.
Hello.
First off, I do this with
introduction, man.
Well, I do this with every guest, and we buried the lead there. But you saved your life around 10 years ago. We've all had loved ones. I always bring that. Listen, there's spritzer lines, there's songs, there's Grammys. There's a point in a young man's life where he decides he's going to save his life and get sober. So congratulations, my man.
Thank you very much.
Huge thing. I
appreciate it. Yeah, that's what we were talking about out there. It was like, I don't even know that person. I'm very glad to, not know him like I did. Or at least maybe I've accepted him a little more, and he's grown out. The shadow has did a lot of shadow work, put it that way.
Put it this way, that person felt estranged, so to estrange him from your own self after you heal is probably
it's worse.
Bad form. You gotta...
No, he'll come back stronger, and then...
Yeah, it's... But anyway, I don't want to get too rhapsodic about it, but I do know that it's a hard thing to do. All of us folks out there watching who hasn't brushed up against this, and some of these cats are in the music field, they're like young pharaohs, the whole world's there, and it's easy to say I wouldn't be a hedonist when you have no options to being a hedonist. But when you're in that game and you decide to save your life, it's a big thing. So good for you. And you had a Bambino, right?
I did, yeah. Holiday Hammond Jr. She's 8 months old.
What a cool song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I would name my next album Holiday. Maybe a Christmas album coming out.
Well, it's just it worked. We were between 2 names, and then she came out, and it was just like she was Holiday. She has like just this crazy hair, like a little bit of like her hair had a tail and had like a whole pompadour thing going on. And I was like, that's Holiday right there.
Elvis.
Yeah, that was just like the other name was too straight for her,
You know, it's amazing, like how quick that switch comes down where you get it. I just remember leading up to having my first kid, I remember thinking, shouldn't somebody have stepped in and licensed me or something? And it really
sure. What do you mean you get a license for everything else?
Yeah, am I the guy who should? And then I remember that baby comes out. I'm standing over at in Cedar Sinai. I look out the window of the birth room, and the Hard Rock's still in existence. Remember they had that clock, the population clock. It's flying by, and I'm thinking, I added to that today. And like the whole thing changes in a second where you're so joyfully able to get outside yourself is the feeling that I remember.
I mean, that was it was too many emotions to even describe what that was, I feel like I'm still coming down from that high or just that life change.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have the baby. I can only imagine what my wife is going through.
Yeah. Listen, I have to congratulate, like I said, I saw the Strokes a decade ago, and the Peter Jackson thing's coming out soon.
Oh, I'm so excited for that.
Me too, bro.
I like teared up at the trailer.
The trailer.
I was like, I've seen enough.
Same thing with me, and I'm thinking, even those guys might as well have been aliens getting off a spaceship. They're so different than anything else that has ever happened in popular culture. They're so great at it. They began to get on each other's nerves, It blows my mind.
Yeah, but I don't even, it was so funny that you said it, because when I see that, I see, maybe because of being in a band, it's just like a band is a relationship with people. It's like a family, and everyone has their place, and you try to push around and change what your place is, and then you're happy with where you are, and you're creating at the same time, and just to see them interact as successful as they were in that same space, that you're still the same people, that part was so fascinating.
Yeah, and think about George having to come in with, arguably, après Beatles, All Things Must Pass might be the greatest individual effort. It's up there.
But look, it's so hard to walk in creatively with anyone, especially your friends, and imagine your friends are super successful at writing some of the biggest songs. It must be intense to just even walk in. But you could see the camaraderie in that when they were helping out with lyrics, and they were spending the time on each other's stuff. It filled my soul with happiness watching that.
Yeah, you must think back, as I read your notes, I'm not trying to act like a wonk here, but you and Casablancas meet over in Switzerland or something. I don't know how old the finishing school was, but a lot of kids are going over there to learn which fork and get laid every 5 minutes when they're over in Switzerland.
It wasn't so much like that. But it was a weird thing, because it was like, my dad didn't even go to school, so schooling to him was like an opportunity for him to live through me, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, oh my God, the school's amazing, you gotta go, you're gonna end up meeting someone you'll do something with the rest of your life. And it was like, that's not what's gonna happen. He called it a lot. He called it a lot.
Plus, well, of course, his father is Albert Hammond Sr., and I was hoping it would rain outside here as we're doing this in L.A., but it didn't. Very groovy, sort of a Donovan vibe. I've been listening to a lot of Donovan lately, and that whole era is so sort of, I don't know, they picked the perfect word, didn't they, A.H., when they called it groovy?
Yeah,
it was groovy times.
It is groovy. That's kind of like how it makes me feel when I listen to him. It's like I grew up with his voice, so it soothes me.
And of course, the song I'm referring to, I didn't quite get to it, It Never Rains in Southern California, amongst many others, but that one certainly sticks in the head.
Especially being here in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Isn't it funny? It's such the olfactory senses, you smell, a certain scent can take me back to a summer eve and certain songs. And
for sure.
that song, well, it must be, what, 60 years now, or close? It's
1972, I think.
Oh, okay, so 50 years.
Don't know how I know that.
And it's just like that. As soon as they say Albert Hammond Jr.'s on, before I even clock that, I go, Albert Hammond. And It Never Rains, it falls right into my head. It's so funny.
No, that's like, God, memory and nostalgia is a beautiful thing, and what triggers it, I feel like I do that in music. I've seen it in my own music, and what time does naturally that I couldn't do with people's experiences. Even with my drink, it's kind of ties into that. It's all about creating experiences that then tie into stuff that you enjoy and love. And then I think that creates a more powerful moment than just trying to create something simply to create it.
Mm-hmm. I'll be intrigued to see the 8-month, the little holiday now. I don't know if you've already penned a few, or there's a little lag time on them, but I'll be intrigued to see.
Her?
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see what it does to you.
I feel like everything feels like it's for her somewhere in my mind. When I was finishing. It'll be a little bit, but I was finishing my last solo record, I'm making a double album, and one of the songs was like for her, but I was writing with the lyricist, and we were able to write it where it's like for her, but it's also just, certain feelings of love and emotion can tie into anyone.
You're opened up now, brother.
Yeah, a little too open. I cry a little too much.
I'm saying, getting sober, that'll open you up. Then the next stage is having the baby.
It's like a double whammy, though. Seriously, I was like, I'm on FaceTime, and my wife's sister's here helping out. She's holding the baby, and I have to go because she's doing something, and I just I get my eyes well up.
Yeah. Well, when you start to go on Geico commercials, that's when the gecko. He's so.
When my wife was pregnant, what's that show called? The Mandalorian, Baby Yoda. They stressed me out. like whenever he was in trouble, I was like, I need to pause this. This isn't fun anymore. I feel like if he's gonna get hurt, I don't want to watch it. I'm serious.
So
it was yeah.
They had to do a flashback episode where they have the Baby Yoda's mother crowning and just Yoda coming. Sorry, just a weird left-hand turn there.
Popped up in your head, man. Say it.
Now listen, I have not watched the Grammys as much since Tull won. I know that's a long time ago when Tull won heavy metal. I had to bail years ago, the best heavy metal artist, Jethro Tull.
Oh, right. I was like,
I remember thinking, this is getting a little square. But I assume they're coming back around now, and you just won one, man.
Yeah,
How did it feel?
it's unreal. 20 years, we never got nominated. Not that you expect to, or even, I never felt we even lived in that world.
You kind of don't. I mean, I don't know, if I'm in a band called The Strokes, I don't want to get nominated for Grammy in a way.
Right, but it also seemed, it became kind of cool that we weren't all of a sudden, and we're still able to have this career 20 years in. But then it felt really good. When they said we won, my daughter was born March 7th, and I won the week later, March 14th.
Although that is a cosmic
I can't believe it was a double. Basically, I've just been going downhill since then. It's like, pull up, please.
You got to own the pinnacle at some point to go downhill is the way I always looked at that.
It's a good down.
It's like gravy time. I always thought I'd count Earthbound. I'd get Earthbound.
I like that line. You got to own the pinnacle.
Huh?
Yeah, that's good.
Well, you
that's
do.
A good line.
I mean,
no,
imagine all the people in life who are noble and good and never get a sideward glance from the world by and large. Their family looks up to them. Their bosses might look up to them. My mother, I thought, was a saint. She dealt in anonymity her whole life, making desserts at an old folks' home. I always loved that. And I remember once being with her and somebody said to her, Norm is a dietitian. And she said, no, I don't have a dietitian degree. I make desserts. I remember that was such a key moment in my life as a young boy. I remember thinking, if you ever get a moment in the sun, I hope you handle it with the same degree of aplomb that your mother just showed you.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Who gets dealt being in a band that lasts 20 years? It doesn't happen.
I don't know. And the older I get, the stranger it gets.
Yeah. So it's
more and more surreal. This is surreal right now.
Well, I'm getting theoretical with you because I like to talk to people who have been down, got up, and now are in the beautiful childbirth thing. You're seeing the whole panoply of life, and it's
true.
I don't know. I don't want to just do an interview about albums and lines.
No,
I wanted
fine.
to
It's
talk
conversation.
To the cat.
It goes where it goes. I like that. I didn't think I would go past 30, and now I'm 41. I can't believe I ever thought that. It's pretty beautiful.
Listen,
I feel like I have a lot to share in that.
The world has changed in that when your father was writing that song, it was never trust anybody over 30. And now with kids today, it's never trust anybody over 30,000 a year. It's changed, baby. The world has changed. Albert Hammond Jr. with us. We're going to talk in the second segment. He's moved into the entrepreneurial world. I want to ask him how that happened. Also released 3 successful solo albums, so it's not all in the Strokes. And as I said, 63rd Grammy Awards for their 2020 release, The New Abnormal. The boys took home the statuette. So he's a man in full right now, as the author Tom Wolfe would say. Albert Hammond Jr. right after this on Dennis Miller Plus One. Hey folks, welcome back to Dennis Miller Plus One. We are joined by Albert Hammond Jr., musician, guitarist, lead guitarist for the Strokes. Recently won their Grammy Award, their first one ever at the 63rd Grammy Awards, has released solo albums too, and he's become an entrepreneur. Brother, what's the branch out at age 41? What made you go this way?
Oh,
Jetway.
This right here? Yeah, I never thought I would make a beverage, but I just, do you know MotoGP? It's like Formula One, but with motorcycles. I watch it. I watch both pretty religiously, and I have an Italian friend, and I flew out to go see him to go watch the race, and the night before we left to go to the other side of Italy, we just gathered around, and I don't know, in the essence of that night, created an idea to want to make a beverage. Maybe not so much just to make a drink, but to capture the experience I had, the adventure, that kind of
Italy
like.
will do that to you.
Yeah, I know, but people say it, but until it happens, like in my calendar, it just said, fly to Milan, fly back to New York. But that weekend, was an experience that I can't even really put into words because it's just different feelings and meeting strangers and interactions.
I was just over in Italy too for 2 weeks in Umbria, and I remember thinking, boy, I have to watch myself here. I'm not going back. This is like, I could.
You could
just
easily
the
stay.
Rhythms of it.
Yeah.
It was so different, Albert. When I was out with a guide one day, she was showing me around. She lived in a little village up on a hill, and she said, "That's my home up there." And she almost got misty, and she did a little, and she rhapsodized about her home. And I think about here, where people are so fractious sometimes, we don't realize we got plunked down out of the baby line at the most glorious place on the planet as far as that. Yeah. And I thought, boy, we've missed that home thing. And I remember thinking, this vibe is beautiful. These people are tapped into something a little deeper than we are at this time.
There's a love for life that feels very different. And that's what happened with these different strangers and conversations I had, and just the essence for the brand started. And then it kind of took off as I went to Formula One in Monaco with my wife. And it just felt like there was a drink that was missing. Those are like long days. They seem fun on TV, and they are fun. I don't want to get the wrong idea, but they're long. And I had people there drinking like hard alcohol, who were like passed out on the couch. And I was like, I just started to see the combination between the two, and I wanted to create something great. And so I just started doing it, and it was a roller coaster. It's been up and down, failed a few times, tried to make it in Europe.
How does it fail? Do they bring something in and it's not up to snuff? You don't like the taste?
Sure, but
Tell
you
me.
just, hey, I don't know. I've never made a drink before, so this is just an idea. And everyone's like, cool idea, but everyone's like, make a deck. I was like, I don't know what a deck is. What's a deck?
Tell me.
It's your business plan, but I don't have a business plan. I just have an idea. I'm like selling an idea. It's bigger than the business plan. So I tried it in Europe. The product wasn't right. I tried it here in Northern California and just didn't taste right. And I didn't want to, if you make something that's not what you think is great and then you have to stick behind it, it becomes tragic, that's like the worst thing you could do.
Too many poker tells. They know you're full of shit at that point.
And plus you just can't you don't want to put the work behind it.
No.
And so I started creating art that would help bring romance and the idea of what I felt in Italy with the drink. So I thought the combination of the two would be what makes it powerful. And then I found, the way I found this guy, Ben Parsons, who helped me make the drink was crazy story. Basically, a Ferris Bueller, friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, introduced me, and then we went to Washington State, and it was me, my pregnant wife, and him, and this guy McKinley, and we created the flavors, and it worked.
Is it Mount McKinley in Washington, or am I wrong?
I do not know.
There's a big mountain up there.
There is.
Called Mount
for sure.
McKinley. So
I drove through some of them. It was in Prosser.
So the four of you, tell me about the light bulb moment where, but tell me about when it all coalesces and you think, oh, this might,
look, it's like little bits, right? So you go and you're like, oh my God, we actually have flavors that are delicious. And then it's like, oh, but how are we gonna going down? And then you're like, oh my God, look at the artwork on the can. We have test samples, but now I have to see if I could get funding for it. And then everything just happened so naturally and like it was meant to be, but it was still this roller coaster.
Sounds like fluid incrementalism. It's like a little bit.
Basically.
But if you look at it in the meta sense, it had a
But I can only tell you this looking back too, because at the time I thought it failed like forever, many times. Always just like that ride.
Well, where's Jetway at now, man?
It's launching in SoCal. We wanted to be small and kind of like take over a part that we knew. And so it's in San Diego, Orange County, Long Beach, and Los Angeles. Actually, this week is going to be in stores in Los Angeles.
And what will you do now? So they say filmmakers sometimes sneak into the back of theaters to watch the reactions so they can get an honest bounce. You're going to be out there at any of the...
Just like hiding in like liquor stores?
I don't know, just watching and seeing how
that's one of the most, like a proud moment for me is I've taken it to parties here, or I've just like shown people, even the investors. Like I didn't really like sell anyone. I kind of just presented the art and the drink and told the story about wanting to pair experience and not just an alcoholic drink, but just like this goes with food. It goes with being in the park. It's sessionable. And people kind of, once they tasted it, they fell in love with it. And if they didn't, that's fine. You don't have to be You can't get everyone, right?
Brother, are you getting the same juice off of it that you get off from music, or is it? It's interesting sometimes when guys get a taste of business. First time I started tending my own business a little, I said, "Oh, this is intoxicating. This is cool."
It's very similar. I like finding a sales director and your distributor is like your label, and you go and meet people, and I go and meet buyers, and like I'm very hands-on. Like I kind of built it from the bottom. So yeah, it's very similar to starting a new band. Like, do we have songs? Are they gonna like it? What's this label? Who's our manager? You know.
We were just talking in the break that Albert, who has almost been reborn and now has a child in that, you feel like you're sitting on a wellspring that you and the band, after 20 years, some people would say, let's start covering our own stuff and getting out there. But you guys are holding back a wave of creativity, right?
The best is yet to come. And like, yeah, by miles. I really do feel it, even just in our playing and in our connection as a group.
Tell me about tell me how often are you getting together? Are you going out on the road? You guys just did some dates?
Yeah, we have a whole, we obviously, COVID happened, so that took some stuff. But we just came back from 2 weeks, did like 5 festivals and our own show, and now starting next year, it begins. I never know how much I can say. I know stuff's been announced, but I always get in trouble.
Yeah, they sometimes want
like we didn't announce that yet. It's like, well, it's happening. So, but yeah, we have a whole tour with the Chili Peppers next summer, August and September, in stadiums in America. It's pretty awesome.
I met Anthony Kiedis once. He was as tall as an Emmy statuette. I mean, for God's sake, I had never met him before. I met him at an art display somewhere. He was a very cool cat, but I just remember.
I'll tell him you said that.
No, I'm just saying, you know what I mean. He was on stage. I always thought of him as.
That's actually, we get the opposite. We're all tall, and people will meet us, and they'll be like, "Wow, you guys as a band are a lot taller than I thought." Maybe because they thought we'd be smaller. I don't know.
There are another group of guys though that have stayed together.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
Something about SoCal because. The guys seem to, I just saw their drummer on a great special about drummers, and he just went on and rhapsodized about how lucky he's been, man.
Great story with him. We played a show in Hawaii, and he was just there on vacation, and he just showed up, and then he was just sitting on stage, and people started stage diving, but he didn't want it to interfere with us playing, so he just started grabbing fans and throwing them, and then once people saw that, then it just didn't stop. So it was like 30 minutes of just people coming over and him, Chad, just throwing people over.
Like an Amazon
I'm
wish
playing, I'm like,
fulfillment.
what's happening?
Well,
he was so into it. He was awesome.
Tell me about if you go back and you're working with them, do you feel the need to do an attendant solo thing, or when you're in Strokes World, are you in Strokes World?
No, very much consumed by it, for sure. I think solo stuff happened just in the need of, there was time. And so like, you don't realize creating doesn't stop. You know, it just is just constantly happening, and you put it in different spots and let it kind of like, I mean, I hate that analogy, but like planting, seeds, and then you just have a lot of stuff. I mean, look, I'm making my last solo record, and it's a double album.
Wow.
And I feel like I was like, stop. I wasn't trying to make a double album. I don't recommend it. It is tedious.
We used to buy, I remember buying Absolutely Live so people could roll joints on it. Remember he was back when the doors used to
open it up, And now it's legal.
There you go. Everything,
now they roll them for you.
Everything has changed, my brother. Well, listen, man, it is good to meet you. And by the way, I always like to, when I'm talking to when you were a kid, who did you dig? Obviously, you're old man, but who rocked your world?
When you're growing up and your dad does it, it's just like, you don't even think about it. I fell in love with music with Roy Orbison and Buddy Holly, and they like blew my mind. And then I jumped to Guided by Voices when I was 16, and they're the band that made me feel like they were like my Beatles. Like, oh, I can do this. I want to do this. I don't know, it was just a very positive effect on me.
Brother, I opened for Orbison once. Can I
Really?
tell you? We're in Ohio. I think we're in Dayton. Beautiful theater.
Dayton.
Maybe called the
And that's
State
funny, that's where
Theater.
Guided by Voices is from.
You're kidding me.
Talk about the, okay,
Well,
sorry.
that's weird overlap there.
Sorry, go on.
So I'm freaked out to say anything. And by the way, I saw him do Crying there and at SNL, and it was the most unavoidable standing ovation I've ever seen. The people, I know Sinatra, New York, but I'm telling you that people could not have stayed in their seats.
Song's so good.
Just everybody would leap up. But anyway, I was thinking, I can't say anything to Roy Orbison. I'm scared. I come off stage and I see, you know, Roy's a different looking cat.
Yeah.
He's off in the darkness. He's still smicking. With those pipes, if you can believe it, he still had a smick in his mouth. I come off stage and I see that. It's like I was talking to Deep Throat in the garage and All the President's Men. I see the smick and I look over and I don't even know what to say. He goes, Miller. I go, yes. And he goes, I dig it. Can you imagine? I finally meet Roy Orbison.
So lucky.
He says, I dig it. I still get goosebumps when I think of that.
Oh my God, that's
Long,
so cool.
strange trip show business, brother, but we're lucky we drew the Wonka ticket, aren't we?
It is a very long, strange trip for sure.
All right, A.H. Jr., Albert Hammond Jr., and he's got a new thing on. It's a wine seltzer line, Jetway, and it sounds like he's paying attention to it. Some of these cats, they fly over the plant and look down at it,
Yes.
and then the name's
It's
on
garbage. We can say it. It's garbage. I've decided to try to make something up here.
But Albert is paying attention, so give it a tumble. Might be nice for the holidays. It looks like it's available in SoCal now. And plus, the music. He rocks. He's a rocker, man. Good to meet you, Albert Hammond Jr.
Pleasure to meet you.
All right, my brother. This is Dennis Miller +1.